welcome back to my channel. It's your girl Alana here. Welcome back to 3 Degrees of Love Divination. So happy Saturday. It's Saturday, September the 6th, 2025. One more day until the blood moon, lunar eclipse, which is in Pisces, by the way, and that happens to be my opposing sign as a Virgo Sun and Venus. And so, yeah, so I wanted to jump on today, show you guys what some of the decks that I have changed over to, probably what I will be looking to put away soon, and then of course just to discuss maybe a few things and potentially my next therapy and tarot topic, which I'm still working on, so stay tuned for that. But as you know, like I said, as with the upcoming full moon in Pisces tomorrow, counting down to my birthday, and excuse me, and so on and so forth. If you haven't seen some of my latest videos that I've been doing in regards to therapy and tarot, discussing various topics on what healthy anger looks like from a high vibrational healing, high frequency standpoint, and also my last video, which was a formula for unconditional love. So if you haven't seen either of those videos, I did do those live. They were live streams, but you can see them on playback now. Please go check them out. I had a lot of fun, and found it to be very informative even for myself while researching the topic as the topic came to mind, and then putting sort of all the pieces together, and then of course the decks that were used in collab for a reading, if you will, for the collective. So please definitely go check that out. As you know, sort of things have, creativity has sort of shifted, and even my mood tends to fluctuate, and how I'm inspired tends to flow around quite a bit. Yeah, this is sort of where I've been on this kick, if you will, closing out old karmic cycles, letting go of old ways of functioning, thinking, and feeling that are not serving my highest and greatest good. Of course, all of that is a process. A healing journey is definitely a process. When you are stuck living in survival mode for so long, coming out of whatever trauma response may have been your go-to. For me, that was people pleasing, and trying to live a more sort of authentic, high vibrational, high frequency life standpoint, and really embodying what unconditional love looks like, and should look like, for myself and for those around me, essentially my community, and of course, for the greatest and highest good of all, the collective, right? Our home, where we live on this planet. And so, and sort of remembering that, as we go about our days, like I said, if, when I was talking about the topic of the formula, and I first sort of spoke about the formula as it came to me, that was a 10-minute video. If you haven't seen that, and recognizing and embodying my sense of purpose, my highest and greatest journey for this lifetime, and and sort of the steps that I'm taking towards that and what that looks like for me. All of that has been part of my healing journey, after burning myself out of my profession, a profession that I felt called to and absolutely love, and and then recognizing how I have to sort of pivot that, to meet my own needs as a result. So, as I'm doing that and simultaneously healing myself and purging all of the, these old traumatic stories and all of these things, and having to battle myself, to bring myself back into balance with mind and body, so that my overall soul can proceed happily, has been quite the process, but a very rewarding one nonetheless, and I am grateful for. So coming into my birthday season, and just a few days away from my birthday, and having and then shortly before, we're running into this eclipse season, and this blood moon eclipse in my opposing sign. Yeah, you're definitely I'm definitely feeling it, in other words. And I there's an anticipatory shift in what I feel going forward, for the greatest and highest good of myself and all those around me, and hopefully ultimately for the greatest and highest good of the whole, right? So anyhow, as you can see here, I already have so of course, if you're down for all of that, please be sure to like, share, and subscribe, and let's go on this journey together. That was an afterthought, but as I was about to say, so what I have in front of me, as you can see here, is I have pulled out from, again, you would have seen this deck already. This is the Ashley River Bryant Oracle deck. It's called Messages from the Heart of the Divine. This is the guidebook for this deck, and it is such a beautiful deck. I will have the link in the description box for you. But what I absolutely love about this deck, like I said, besides the fact that it's very ritualistic based, in the sense that every entry from the, once you pick your cards here, every entry has its summary, and then of course a ritual for embodiment. So I absolutely love that, and I've been working with that. I've had this deck for a while. I've used this deck before, and I'm bringing it out again. But what's also new to this is the this book here, which is the it's an additional book that you can get and purchase separately from the deck, but it's actually super beautiful. The book itself goes so in depth, and I feel like it's so in alignment with the work I've been doing, the work that I look to be doing, even as I further develop my practice for myself, and of course professionally speaking, when I am looking to work with others. So yeah, and even now. So as I share this with you, So we're going to look at this book. Now these are cards I already had pulled out for myself. And then I took a break and then decided, you know what, today's the day. Let's just do this video. So welcome everybody, or welcome back. I am a registered social worker here in Canada. I burnt myself out in my field. I've been on my own personal healing journey, and looking to share that with all of you as a neurodivergent, highly sensitive empath, mental health advocate, Hayoka empath, by the way. And like I said, a Virgo Sun and Virgo Venus. So really connecting all the dots that, as I've been on this healing journey of who I am, what I know about myself, and then diving deeper and further into that, and really getting to know me to the heart, to the core of my being. So here we go. So the four cards that I've pulled so far here is we have 35, which is calling on courage. And I feel like, especially as a karmic cycle breaker, as I have identified myself to be, and I know that there are other karmic cycles or karmic cycle breakers in this world, and looking to call in those other high vibrational, high frequency beings, for the healing of the collective, and the thing is, we all have the capabilities of being karmic cycle breakers. It's a matter of whether or not you make the choice to commit to that path, for the greatest and highest good of yourself, your ancestral line, your community, and essentially all of humanity, right? Healing and bringing ourselves back to the frequency of love, and meeting fully who we are to our core, which originates from love, essentially. So calling on courage, and and what that looks like, and even from and I have read the passages in the little guidebook, but I want to dive deeper into the bigger guidebook here in this video with these cards here. So calling on courage, and then calling on courage to tend to your love and the aspects of love, that are within you, that could be hidden within you because you haven't tapped into that, because we have been stuck living on a lower, denser frequency, the collective, right? Living in survival mode. And then even as we, do the healing journey, for some of us think that part of that healing is to turning off these aspects of self, closing and shutting the door, not actually exploring the depths of our waters and the depths of our traumas, right? To really unpack and uncover those hidden parts of ourselves that we've either kept hidden for protection, that we've run away from, because either we've rejected it because others rejected it, and so you're living in a matter of survival mode, and essentially putting on a performance, if you will, wearing the various masks that you need to, in order to protect yourself from hurt and from pain and from further trauma. But when that happens, and we don't tend to the tender and the loving parts of self, you build up this hard casing, this wall, essentially, that only impacts yourself and those around you, and unknowingly, subconsciously, for some it is knowingly and purposefully, and for others, you know, it just becomes a way of practice, right? A karmic cycle loop of low vibrational practice of living and living in survival mode. And that's where the world is at. And that is why, right, we're in a global mental health crisis, why, Mother Nature is mad, and the whole everything environmentally is so topsy-turvy. So, right, the need, calling on the courage to tend to your love, those sacred aspects of self within that we've hidden in the shadows, far, far away, that we are and allowed it to fester and grow into this ginormous beast that nobody wants to contend with. No, right? So now we're essentially walking around in what I consider a zombie apocalypse sort of cloud of being, if you will, right? And that's why I say, when I talk about life imitating art and art imitating life, right? And we can see that happening because of the movies and the TV shows and, the art culture that we see, right? If you're really paying attention to those things. So it's definitely a call for dissension. To ascend, we have to first descend into self, into the depths of our beings, in order to fully understand who we are and our purpose and why we're here, right? And how we can evolve and grow moving forward. So as we tend to our love and we uncover these parts of ourselves that have been buried and hidden, maybe even for generations, right? Through generational trauma, right? We then come into sacred wholeness with self. And as we do that, right? As we call upon the courage to go deep within ourselves, getting to know every aspect of self, tending to our sacred love, we come into sacred wholeness with ourselves, right? That's where now the shadow meets the light within. And then we can now then illuminate and shine that light from within brighter out for others to see. And in that process now, we open the channels for creativity, for being able to plant seeds of creation. If you notice that even in the watercolor here, we have this being, and she's got her eyes closed. There's roses or flowers that are sort of line drawn all around her, covering her. And in the middle of the sacral chakra, we see a life forming. So whether that we look at that as being in the physical self of, producing further generations to come, right? Seeds of creation for a new world. So whether that be literally speaking, or even in a creative form, sense of being, right? Where we are igniting the passions, the fires within, so that we can evolve and create a new and better, more elevated, high functioning, high frequency, elevated sense of emotional intelligence when we're dealing with others and we're looking to come together to build a new world for us all to thrive in. And not just living in the denser energies of survival mode, but actually living from the standpoint of unconditional love and what the truth of all of that means. Okay. All right. So, calling on courage. Now, like I said, while I'm not reading from the smaller guidebook in this video, I'm going to look at, let me see, what do we have here in this bigger guidebook? Okay. So I'm going to read from chapter 10 here, 131. I feel called to read that. So let's do that. 131. Okay. So I'm reading here from chapter 10. Our mission, our healing. We are all divine souls living a human experience. We all come here with a soul contract, a sacred mission, or divine purpose to heal, to evolve, to become, and to offer our wisdom to the world in exchange. Our individual lessons and life paths are unique according to what specific areas our souls need to grow in. But we all come here to remember who we truly are, why we are here, and to remember that life is sacred. We also come to learn devotion, how to love, and to free fear into the light. Tending to the sacred is our truest mission on this earth, and it all begins with tending to the sacred within. Our inner work is a part of the collective mission to create harmony in our world. We change the world from the inside out. That's right. When we dedicate ourselves to our healing, we find the strength within our own beating hearts and the sacred songs humming through the rivers of our bodies. Ritual is a simple, powerful practice tool to connect to our sacred, holy essence and remember the higher self, the truest essence of self without the fear, control, and judgment that keep us further from sacred love. Ritual helps us to reclaim all parts of the self once forgotten, returning us whole. When we are disconnected from the higher self, it shows up in our bodies. Physical health is the foundation of spiritual health. Our bodies require us to be in intimate communication, our bodies require us to be in Our bodies require us to be in intimate communion with their inner intelligence. Yay! But if we don't learn this as children, how do we teach ourselves? As I mentioned before, we can see the root of this collective wounding directly mirrored in our Earth's health too. Her basic needs for survival are not being met for her vitality. Let's face it. We are collectively unhealthy and neglected/neglectful, And most humans aren't intuitively connected to our earth, our bodies, like our ancestors once were, in the way we naturally are designed to be. Full health and vitality, full health and vitality, courageously following desires and passions outside of limiting systems, feeling comfortable in our bodies, and trusting in spirit are all rare ways of showing up these days. They truly are, ain't they? And after I finish reading this, I have a story on that. This is why tending to the self, inner listening, and taking care of our individual needs and healing radically changes our lives. When we learn to meet our needs fully, listen to our bodies, and not through diets, trends, gurus, or looking to others for answers, and give our bodies exactly what they need, we evolve. Our bodies move into their natural rhythms of homeostasis with full vitality, and we gain the energy to align with purpose, passion, desire, peace, and love. Okay, so before I continue reading, I wanted to just stop and take a minute to talk about something that I just read. So when I spoken about, the idea of when I was reading the part here about full health and vitality, courageously following desires and passions outside of limiting systems, feeling comfortable in our bodies, and trusting in spirit are all rare ways of showing up these days. And what I wanted to mention in regards to that is an example, and this is even an example I'm taking from a discussion that I had with my mom, because this is something that she experienced herself as well. So, getting into the habit, and of course, this is something that has unfortunately something that I have been thrown into, which is, literally living like a hermit, for health reasons, and due to my burnout, my trauma, and so I rarely do go out. But when I do go out, what I've also, being a highly sensitive person, living in the concrete jungle of my city, if you will, what that experience can be like for me. And, and then being so, because of, again, my trauma response as a people pleaser, and based on my upbringing and my own personal trauma, always seeking for validation outside of myself, feeling like my answers, my thought processes aren't enough, because again, living as someone and realizing and learning about my neurodivergence, and things like that, and what it's like to be neurodivergent, living in a world that is catered to neurotypical people, and sort of being forced into this sort of automated response of people pleasing and looking for validation outside of self, right? So even up to most recently, I found myself sort of doing that. But, and then having to sort of take a step back, because all of the mumble jumble going on was too much chaos. So having to really recognize and no, that's not right for me. at least, and sort of having to reevaluate that. But the part that I'm talking about in regards to going out, and what I came to recognize, and this sort of speaks again back to the whole idea of the zombie apocalypse effect that I, been speaking about. And, when I found myself, I was getting ready to go to one of my local drugstores one day. And as I was walking in, there was a person walking out. And they were so engrossed in their phone while walking, right? And see, when we're so in survival mode and stuck into our own worlds, and we're not really paying attention to the world in and around our surroundings, especially when we're out and about in the world, where we're meeting other people and coming into contact with other people, but still operating on this sort of zombie level of mentality, can be really difficult. It can be dangerous, even for self and those around us, right? The reason why I bring this up is because of the fact that while I was on my way in, and my head was up, I wasn't looking at my phone, but this other person was, and they were exiting, right? And if I wasn't paying attention, we would have collided. But it was me seeing their zombie-like behavior that was able to then see them and shift my purpose, my trajectory of walking in order to get around them so I didn't collide with them, you see? But that thing is, it isn't one person's responsibility in a case like that. That's both parties' responsibility. But you see, when we're living in a zombie apocalypse like that, where was the other person's responsibility? They took none. They just kept on moving, because even in that moment, while I navigated successfully around them, I stopped and I slowed down just to pay attention to see their next move. And their head was still in their phone while walking. And so, right? So there's that. Then, of course, like I said, as I was discussing this with my mom was able to tell me of a very similar story that she had. Now, and this is where, what I look at and why I say about checking our privilege and minding our magic, right? Because when we are conscious of ourselves, and we are conscious of those around us and those that, we live around, that may be a part of our community, that we may interact with or may not, but we may see and come into contact with along our journey, on our regular route of journeying through life, right? When we're not paying attention and we're only focused on just us, like we're the only one living right in that moment, right? We don't see the struggles of others. So to be walking with your head down, I'm using this as an example, not as a way to shame anybody, but when we're walking with our heads down, we're engaging or driving or whatever, right? When we're out and about and we're in company with other people, or we're have the potential to meet other people, right? We have to be mindful, because if we're walking with our heads down or in our phones like a zombie, and we don't see another person, how do we know that that person has the ability, physical ability even, to be able to navigate around us like I was able to? What if the person is, has a disability, a physical disability, maybe in a wheelchair, maybe have a walker, and you're walking with your head down and your phone down, and they can't navigate because they don't have the speed, the steadiness, or even the mental capacity to be able to foresee and foreshadow, to be able to navigate around you. Then what happens? So there's a reason why I say for you to check your privilege and mind your magic. Right? That's part of it. Taking responsibility for ourselves, the choices we make, and how we progress forward. Right? Okay. So yeah, and then again, just talking about the difference between neurodivergent and neurotypical. In neurotypical society, that's where the idea of trends, diets, looking to others, looking to outside of ourselves for validation, for answers. Now, bearing in mind, sometimes that is needed, right? Especially when we may be feeling lost. Maybe we're dealing with an area that we're not familiar with, that we're not educated in. So we seek, which is why I always will push for and advocate for professional assistance when it comes to things, because we don't know everything, right? That's why we all have our abilities, our strengths, and our weaknesses, and why no full power is ever given to one individual, right? We have to learn to work collaboratively with one another, right? Okay. All right, so here, continuing for this card, for self-tending ritual work, you don't need a healer or anyone to fix you to obtain your own spiritual and physical harmony. Unless we are throwing in mental illness or any sort of physical illness that requires professional assistance. Bearing that in mind. You are all you need. Your body, your breath, your heart, your awareness, you. Learning to listen to your unique needs is at the root of self-tending. If we grow up with our basic needs neglected, we tend to neglect them as we age. Sadly, it often takes illness, disease, or an accident or injury to take our unique body's needs and the emotions that animate them seriously and tend to ourselves. As you move further into this book and your own inner healing, it's important to check in with yourself, your body, your needs, often to see if your patterns, routines, diets, relationships, ways of being, and even, and most importantly, healing rituals are still serving the needs of your higher self as you evolve on your path, as you and your needs are always evolving. Tending to ourselves ripples out and reflects every person, place, and opportunity that comes into our energy in exchange. Collective healing is a domino effect. Heal ourselves and then heal the world. This is the most sacred work of all. And I'm going to stop there with that, because I feel like that just sort of exactly encompasses all that I was just saying and talking about right there. So as you can see, this is why I absolutely love this deck and this book, right? So So yeah, so that's, you know, that's that. And that's the, like I said, that's the deck by Ashley River Bryant, along with the bigger guidebook that you can purchase separately. And I will have the links for this in the description box for you as well. So yeah, so there's that. The next deck that I have brought back out into rotation, or not brought back out, but is in rotation, but is actually new to my collection. And this is another Sherilyn Darcy deck, by the way. This one is, and I think this is the last one I didn't have, and I only realized I didn't have it. And I'm really glad that I got it, because even look at this sort of match, if you will, here. I just feel like the backs seem to match really well. This is not a Sherilyn Darcy deck. This little affirmations, if you will, is by Rockpool Publishing. It's Secret Garden, Enchanting Messages from Quiet Spaces. This is by Jessica Lee. It, you know, has the flip top, and this is like an affirmation deck. But somehow, of course, I had this Secret Garden affirmation deck in my collection already. But when I picked up the Magical Herb Oracle by Sherilyn Darcy and illustrated by Dear Dandy, here, this, I was like, oh yeah, it's perfect. It was meant to be in this collection, because look at the backs, look how they match, and they're both glossy cardstock here. So yeah, that my inner children were like psyched about that one. Anyway, but actually been loving this deck, since I've started working with it, and the messages that have come up. Again, this is combining gardening and herbs and flowers and all of that stuff, you name it. Anyways, so while I've already put away the other Sherilyn Darcy decks that I have, I have been using this one. So I'm just gonna pull some cards from this one. Read the guidebook on that, and I think that will be it for now, because the other, with the exception of one deck, which I'll probably just show in another video, because I'll probably do this again. Well, actually, you would have already seen it, because I did pull it in my latest live that I did, actually, for Thoughtful Thursday, inspired by my friend TJ. If you don't remember, TJ Malign, who's the creator of the Thoughtful Journey Oracle deck, and that is currently on a pending giveaway, if you will, for when I reach 333 subscribers. So stay tuned for that. And that deck is absolutely beautiful. If you haven't seen the walkthrough I did with it, and also the interview I did with the creator of that deck, please go check it out. She often does on Instagram a card pull from that deck, and with the hashtag Thoughtful Thursdays. And because I absolutely love that so much, she's you know, pulling cards from wherever she's docked on Thursdays. So sometimes that's Alaska, sometimes that's other places. It's absolutely breathtaking, the view, mind you. And so I figured, you know, as I had a new deck, a tarot deck, that I felt sort of just vibed with it, because it's all about dance. And that the tarot deck is Dancing in the Dark Tarot, published by Lowell Scarabeo, and I did use that in a reading on Thursday. So if you haven't seen that, please go check that out. But in the meantime, let's see. Let's spirit guardian angels. What do you have? What messages do you have for the collective for us today? For the greatest and highest good of ourselves, one another, and essentially the entire collective. Okay, we have purification. So calling on that courage, but purifying it, releasing the that old structures of survival mode, that overflowing, stuck, stagnant energy of anger that can often creep up and fuel us into making very irrash decisions, reacting to rather than responding to decisions, right? Oops. Oh, okay. Well, that's 3 cards there. So that's 31 a burdock on that card for purification. The next we have is acceptance, 2 Valerian. So acceptance, untending to your love. Well, that's when you're going within, right? You're going within to meet yourself in your fullest form, confronting those aspects of self that you've kept hidden, that you've buried, that you've turned off because of survival mode, right? Accepting those parts and all the mistakes, all the missteps that came before. It's all about, right? This is a full moon, and a very transformative full moon, no less, because it's an eclipse, right? So letting go of all of those lower energies and vibrations that aren't serving our highest and greatest good, but confronting the shadows of self that we've kept hidden for so long, and allowing the freedom of it to be in the light. Let your shadow meet your light, so that you can now begin to create that formula. Like I said, the humility, going within and accepting self and recognizing self in comparison to others, no greater but no less than. All right, we have activation. So as you do that and you welcome in acceptance, you're now activating the sacred wholeness within self. And as we go through this full moon, right, and through eclipse season, and we're letting go of all of those things, we're freeing ourselves so that we can be liberated. We can plant seeds of creation for the greatest and highest good of all, and bringing ourselves, as the shadow meets the light, bringing ourselves into full balance, whole beings. 6, passion flower. 6 also being the number of the choice, the Lover's card, right? It's a choice. Do you want to continue choosing to live in the lower densities and frequencies of creation, in survival mode essentially, or bringing ourselves into whole beings and balancing ourselves for a higher and greater frequency? And essentially, as we do all of that individual work for ourselves, we extend that out, and it emanates throughout our bodies and then spills out to the collective. First hitting those that we love, that are in our close orbits, moving into our communities, and eventually flowing out to the greater good of all of humanity. right? Bringing us into now then the new moon, which will then be in Libra, which is represented by the scales of balance. So, with all that being said, I'm going to leave it there. I want to thank you so much for joining me today for this video. Stay tuned for other videos to come. And yeah, so like I always say, I am love and so are you. As I see myself as human, I know you are too. So with all that being said, please remember to take care of yourselves and one another. And while you're at it, don't forget about me too. Please like, share, and subscribe. Comment down below what you thought. And don't forget to hit that notification bell so you'll always be in the know when I post my next video. Until I see you again next time, please always remember to check your privilege, mind your magic, and as always, live, listen, and learn. I love you. Bye, everybody. Take care.